while we say goodbye to you, Elias, so we say welcome. Thank you again to Anna Koppel. Anna Koppel represents an external voices. We have been hearing and listening and meeting several of the EUI faculty members and researchers. Anna, you are coming from the International Development Law Organization. You have been here with us the entire day as participants of EUIdeas, the new research festival of the EUI, and your organization is also a close stakeholder to the EUI. Indeed, we have been exchanging a lot on how to combine research from a university, as Elias was saying, together with an intergovernmental organization. So welcome and thank you for your time. I will kick immediately with a question whether you could introduce yourself and maybe giving a short introduction about IDLO, and then I give the floor to Alexandre for some other questions. Thank you again.
Of course, thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here today, and thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to participate in such an open dialogue. As you said, my name is Anna Koppel, and I am representing the International Development Law Organization, where I am currently Chief of Research. And just a few brief words about IDLO. We are an intergovernmental international organization headquartered in Rome, and our mandate is to promote and advance the rule of law across the world, with the linkages that, of course, it has for peace, stabilization, and democratic transitions.
Defending and upholding the rule of law worldwide, that seems like an ambitious goal in the current situation. Are you hopeful about the future of the rule of law? Because even in Western countries where we thought that the rule of law was very well entrenched, like not mentioning the United States, of course, but I have to, and even in Western Europe, we see some rule of law backsliding everywhere. Are you hopeful about the future of rule of law nevertheless, and maybe in a more global perspective, because we talk about Europe and the US a lot, but developments are not just in these areas.
Absolutely. I think in the current historical and political moment, it's difficult to be hopeful. And I think it's difficult to be hopeful in such a universal and global way. But I think that we have lessons that show us that just as democratization processes are a process of progress and retrenchment, so is the rule of law, and the two, of course, accompany each other. So even if things look bleak overall, you can always find spaces and pockets where actually there is progress forward, and you can take those lessons and you can see how you can adapt them and apply them in other places where there might be an opening to try something similar. And so I think that continues to drive hope forward. And there are contexts that are as complicated as, for example, Ukraine, where you see that even under the very practical, everyday reality of air raids, when there was a challenge to the independence of anti-corruption institutions, regular people, civil society came out to the streets to demand that that not happen. And I think that shows how hope for rule of law, for democracy, can live under the most difficult of circumstances.
Thank you very much, Anna. You mentioned that you are the head of research, and the IDLO works in 40 countries, if I'm not mistaken. And here at the UI, we also, of course, as you know, we are a research-focused university, and we have 24 member states. My question is on the methodology. How, because each country comes with its own research agenda, research methodology, and then I believe in the headquarters you have to do a kind of summary, allow me for this word, and how does it happen, and what are the challenges and the opportunities that you see in so much diversity? Thank you.
Sure. So we are implementing programmatic and operational interventions in the countries across the globe. What we try to do from the research perspective is we try to draw out the lessons from each programmatic experience, but given the particularities of the context in which that programmatic experience has been undertaken. So we learn contextually. And we try to extract lessons that could be applicable to other places, but always with the understanding that in any other place where they may be applied, the particularities and the context on the operational space will be very different. So we try to understand what are the conditions under which success is likely, or what are the conditions under which it's likely to face certain risks and challenges. And we present models that are based on our experiential work, but with the understanding that in any given situation, you will have to take into account the particularities, political, social, cultural, the history of the legal system and the way that it is evolving into the present. So any application has to be done with delicacy and an eye on what could potentially derail it in a different context. And we also try to engage with the plurality, not just of voices, but with the plurality of legal systems that exist across the world. And there has been a lot of work done in a number of African countries, for instance, bringing customary and informal justice systems into a more institutionalized kind of space that allows for greater access to justice, but also the recognition that people seek to resolve their disputes in a variety of different ways that could all be acceptable and are important for the capacity of people to get justice.
Fascinating. Maybe one last question before we wrap up. Here at the EUIdeas, we try to bridge research, knowledge, and policymaking. As someone who is part of a research institute but also tries to influence policy, how do you think your work is received, and can you share a bit your experience about the policy impact of the work you conduct in your institute?
And question. And as I was saying, we try to create linkages that come from programmatic evidentiary experience, examine it through a research lens, and then repackage it into policy recommendations so that you have the real lived experience, but then you have the analytical aspect to it as well. We also try to work in a way that brings together different stakeholders and different actors. So we're not usually acting alone. And in terms of getting policy buy-in, that's a really important factor. When you have a plurality of voices kind of speaking to the same idea, international actors, civil society, donor institutions, for example, you get a lot more traction. And of course, we also work from the premise of national and local ownership. So we ensure that when we are beginning to even conceive a particular intervention that involves reform, that we are working within a context that's open to that reform going forward. So as that process unfolds, you then also have as champions people who participated in making it happen. So it's not at all a simple process, and it involves many different variables and moving pieces, which again are specific to any given context.
Thank you very much, Anna. This was very complementary with the discussion we had before with Elias and Calypso. Very, very last question, because we cannot leave you without asking for wishes. I mean, you have been here at the EUI today representing IDLO together with Silvia, that I say hello to her. And so we appreciate it very much. We're celebrating together. So what do you wish on behalf of IDLO to the next 50 years of the EUI? Thank you.
Absolutely. So I was very moved by how frequently the words democratic spaces and their shrinking have been mentioned. And of course, universities have historically been protected, in essence, spaces for dialogue, for deliberation, for debate, for questioning what is even the meaning of truth and who determines what that is. And so I think EUI fits very well into that conception of what is academia, what is a university. But what I would like to wish you is that, with the understanding that your seat is in Florence, it's in Italy, it's in Europe, universities in this part of the world don't live for years, don't live for decades. They often live on for centuries. So I want to wish you not just another 50 years, but perhaps another few centuries, without naming any numbers, of continuing to be a space for dialogue, for debate, and for searching for the multiple truths that exist.
Lovely. What a lovely wish. So we do agree with that. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you again, and congratulations.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think we've finished our segment. We had a lot of different guests in a very short time, so this was a very productive hour together in Radio Cavolo.
It was very fun. So there is a kind of sadness to leave the beloved radio part, but eventually one day we'll be together again, Alexandre.
Hopefully.
Yes. Merci beaucoup for being together with me today.
It was a pleasure, Elena.
The same. Ciao.